All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 12th, 2026 Harbor Commission meeting. So call to order, Cynthia, for the roll call.
Let the record reflect that all commissioners are present, with the exception of Commissioner Kerr, McElroy, and Sparchek, who all have excused absence.
Thank you. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Miller, will you lead us in that?
Stand county root counts. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 4, public comments on non-agenda items. Public comments are invited on non-agenda items. Speakers must limit to 3 minutes before speaking. We invite but do not require you to state your name for the record. The Harbor Commission has the discretion to extend or shorten the speaker's time limit on agenda or non-agenda items, provided the time limit adjustment is applied equally to all speakers. As a courtesy, please turn off cell phones or set them in silent mode. And as a reminder, this is for non-agenda items. Are there any items the public wishes to bring up?
Hello, Jay Gaskell. I live at 1611 Bayside Drive. On Friday, May 15th, I was on my Duffy with my family, and we were struck by a rental boat company, well, a renter. At the time, I exchanged information with the renter. He was courteous, gave me his license, and he acknowledged that it was his fault that he hit my boat because he took his eye off the wheel and the boat, turned to port and hit me broadside. I then contacted Mr. Pellerin, who is the owner of the Vision Boat Rental Company, and his response was he had no responsibility whatsoever and I should just take it up with the renter. I subsequently called Matt Cosselin, the assistant harbor master, and let him know what happened. He let me know that HB Boat Rentals is required to have insurance for a marine activities permit. He assisted me in getting a hold of Markel Insurance and the policy number, and I submitted a claim. Markel Insurance subsequently denied my claim, said once again, no responsibility on the part of their customer, but they would not provide me policy details. They said it was private. I subsequently found out that there is optional insurance available to the renter, but once again, it only covers the rental boat company, does not cover anybody else they hit. So my concern here is that we have on any given weekend, we have maybe 100 boats out there being rented, and to people that are not required to have a boater card, not required to show proof of insurance. And the rental boat company, at least this one's attitude is, their problem. And I think it's only a matter of time before somebody gets seriously hurt or extensive property damage. My boat cost $8,500 to get repaired. Thankfully, the young man, who was a young man, was very responsible and came forward and paid, but he had to pay out of pocket because his renter's insurance did not cover this. So I strongly encourage the city and the harbor to review our current insurance requirements and make sure that these rental companies have to have insurance for bodily injury and for damage they do to third parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wish to speak on a non-agenda item?
Commissioners, this morning I made a public comment to the California Coastal Commission, and this is what I said. My name is Shaylee Hilgema. I'm a Newport Harbor mooring permit holder. The city of Newport Beach has unfairly mismanaged the tidelands for decades. Mooring permit holders haven't enjoyed the financial favoritism that the city gives to those users with well-connected advocates. Instead, we've been overcharged, highly regulated, and strictly monitored. The city's divisiveness has put us on the defensive. Its mooring policy processes haven't been transparent, related policies have been changed erratically, and consequential decisions were made without adequate stakeholder notice or input. Our concerns greatly intensified when we learned that the city wants to raise only our fees 300 to 500% and only our permit transferability and take our mooring permits without compensating us. The lack of policy continuity has caused members of our user group to feel a sense of instability about their place in the harbor. Less than 2 months after our harbor master assured us that our mooring permits would remain transferable, our harbor code was altered to end transfer of permits that were purchased after July 13th, 2023. Regulation 17.60040E was a stealth offensive action in more ways than one. It essentially sunk our ability to recoup in good faith some of what we paid for our permits and mooring tackle maintenance. It also threatens our ability to sell our boats because if boaters don't have affordable space to store their boats, harbor access will end for those of moderate means. Recreational boating is a protected use under the Public Trust, and the Coastal Act calls for protection of recreational boating harbor space. We're asking this commission to protect harbor access for us, but more importantly for generations of boaters to come. Please support fair policy for all Newport Harbor recreational tidelands permit holders, unquote. Many of us paid tens of thousands of dollars for our permits and thousands more for maintenance of our tackle. Because transfers have been allowed for decades, we assumed that we would recoup some of what we paid when we transferred our permits, and many of us are counting on those monies for our retirement. Now the city wants us to believe that only mooring transfers violate state law. If the city's intention is to somehow protect the public interest, why would it continue to allow residential pier permit transfers which generate far more private value than mooring permit transfers? And why would it continue to allow those with residential pier permits to rent dock space for private financial gain, which can amount to many thousands of dollars of profit per year? It seems highly unlikely that the city is truly concerned about the private monetization of tidelands, but its policies certainly show us its preference for who benefits. If the city changes long-established harbor policy by arbitrarily ending only mooring permit transferability, its actions would not only be indefensible, it would be discriminatory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon, Harbor Commissioners. On many walks around Balboa Island and the peninsula, I've noticed that very few docks have only 1 or 2 boats tied to them. Most of the docks have multiple boats, and some of the larger dock boats are more than 3 times the width of the dock itself. That's a lot of tidelands under those boats. In previous meetings, we learned about the drones that the Harbor Commission are now using to determine the location and size of docks, docked boats, and moored boats in the harbor, and I'm hopeful that once you acquire all the information, you'll be able to determine the location, size, and number of dock boats that are impacting tidelands, and whether or not the Harbor Commission can charge the dock owners for the tidelands impacted by these boats, instead of just allowing the dock owners to benefit from renting their dock space. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Bliss. I'm a mooring permit holder. I wanted to just briefly talk tonight about the possibility of using a Category 1 benchmark rate for all tidelands users, all recreational tidelands users. The City of Newport Beach should adopt this simple principle. One Category 1 benchmark rate should be used for recreational leaseholders. Docks, piers, and moorings all represent private recreational use of public tidelands. Using one common benchmark would provide significant advantages, such as consistency and fairness. All recreational users would begin with the same objective valuation standard. Transparency. Everyone would know the underlying rate and how fees are calculated, eliminating different pricing methodologies that have no clear rationale. Simplicity. The city would have one understandable system that is easier to administer, explain, update, and defend. There'd be a reduced perception of favoritism. A common standard would demonstrate that no particular class of recreational user receives preferential treatment. There would be fewer disputes. A single benchmark could finally help end the decades of disagreement over the relative treatment of private docks, piers, and moorings. And there would be greater public confidence. The city, the State Lands Commission, and leaseholders and the public would have a clear and consistent basis for evaluating tidelands fees. Using one benchmark does not mean that every user must necessarily receive an identical bill. Legitimate differences can be recognized through specific publicly explained adjustments, that everyone would begin with the same benchmark. The principle is simple. Same water, same use, same rate. It really makes sense. After decades of controversy, this approach would replace competing methodologies and perceptions of favoritism with clarity, consistency, transparency, and predictability for everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Edward McLaughlin, permit holder since 2001, where I purchased my permit off of the city, not you guys. There wasn't you guys back then. And they had a closed bid auction for 3 moorings that were sold as real property. So if you want to uncreate that real property, you'll find a lawsuit at the end of that road. And I access my mooring through the, Fernando Street public dock, and it's not handicap accessible, right? It never has been. The stairs are not compliant with code. They're twice as high as code. I don't know if you ever heard of the Americans with Disabilities Act, but you're in violation of it, right there. All right, I've fallen on those stairs, trying to take my mooring, or my dinghy to the, down. It takes me like close to an hour to get to my boat. All right, but by the time I unload it, sit it down there, and then go find a parking spot in Balboa, and then I come back, and the harbor patrol guys are in the process of picking my dinghy up because it's an abandoned dinghy. Well, I got mugged in December 30th, 2006. I got clubbed over the head and pushed into a train. Sold my watch, my wallet, my $300 out of my wallet, and my jacket. 13 broken ribs, 2 collapsed lungs, 3 broken vertebrae, splayed my hips in 5 places, lost my right big toe, all the skin from my kneecap to my hip, the outside of my hamstring. One of the boys got a plate pin. 43 surgeries, put me back together again. Well, what you people are doing feels like being mugged again. All right, I don't see the sincerity. The harbor department, the sheriff's department handled everything perfectly. And it was half the price with not paying for anybody's pension. All right, now we have how many pensions on that go forever? You create more problems. You people crawled up the state's butt, not the state crawling up yours about this whole affair. So, anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Michael Spano, live aboard permittee, and I just wanted to ask, when will we be notified about the dredging for the H&J fields or the other mooring fields? I saw the dredger has been doing all the channels, and it did the yacht club mooring field, and it's getting close to H field, so Harbor Master, maybe you could address this. Are we going to be notified? Is there going to be some coordination for dredging H&J fields? That would be nice. And secondly, about the the public docks, I think when dealing with unattended tenders and dinghies, it can be helpful to remember the humanity behind the people that those dinghies belong to. A little bit of courtesy goes a long way. A little bit of patience goes a long way. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, so we'll move on to item 5, approval of the minutes. Comments received from Vice Chair Scully. I also submitted comments, but that's not noted here. Does any other commissioner have any additional comments on the minutes from last month?
I do not.
Gary?
None.
Are there any comments from the public on the minutes from last month? Okay, so is there a motion?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from our last meeting, inclusive of the additional comments from myself and from Chair Marston.
And I'll second.
So a question on that, on Mr. Mosher's comments. There's a lot of text with respect to 6.1, so are we amending it to include all of that?
No, just the 5.1 section.
Just 5.1, okay, thank you.
Excuse me, pay attention.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to item 6, current business, 6.1, create and appoint members to a proposed state lands ad hoc subcommittee. Is there a staff report on this or not?
Madam Chair, this is our Harbor Master speaking. I will be recusing myself from this topic as I am a mooring permittee and this discussion could affect me financially. Should you have any questions or need further clarification on the staff report, please refer to Deputy Harbor Master Matt Gozline, who's in the audience.
Good afternoon, Chair Marston.
Welcome, Deputy Koziolan.
There is a staff report associated with this agenda item. I'm able to answer any questions. Not sure where you want to go with it.
Excuse me?
There is a staff report associated with this agenda item.
Do you want to go through that, or do you want to just open it up to the commission?
I think we can just open it up to the
Okay.
commission.
Okay. So, I was the one that suggested this ad hoc be created at the last meeting. We do have a State Lands Commission letter that is asking the city to take a look at the tidelands uses and the value of such. And the city council's ad hoc committee has deferred the discussion of the State Lands Commission letter to the Harbor Commission. And as such, to facilitate the ease of communication, the research that we're going to need to do, it's going to be much easier to work through an ad hoc committee so that we don't have any Brown Act violations. And so that's why I proposed an ad hoc committee for the State Lands Commission letter. It will also allow the ad hoc committee to have direct stakeholder meetings with the public and have a more of an interface type discussion rather than this formal setting of a Harbor Commission meeting, where it's very difficult to have that sort of interaction with the public. We're going to have several meetings as the time progresses on the various aspects of the State Lands Commission's directive. So I think in general, to try to foster the communication between the Harbor Commission and the public, it's best to have an ad hoc committee that can do this interface and do the research and then we'll bring back, the ad hoc committee would bring back to the full commission, a discussion about what has proceeded, you know, what meetings were held, what was discussed, you know, what did we study, what kind of recommendations can we make, and then the Harbor Commission would go from there with recommendations that ultimately go to council, because ultimately it will be the city council that makes the determination of what is responded to in the State Lands Commission letter. So that's my opening remark. Are there any other comments from the other commissioners?
My comment really goes to Deputy Commissioner Kosingland, and we kind of lived this once before as we went through the Title 17, and we utilized ad hoc committee to kind of marshal that through and got some amazing input from the community. How do you see this being different than that, or is there different steps we need to take, or we'd love your opinion as it relates to that, because I thought that process went very smoothly. This one might be a lot more moving parts into it. I just wonder what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, so one of the benefits of the ad hoc committee is that there will be a significant number of public hearings associated with each of the various harbor uses, and review the State Lands Commission report. And so by having the establishment of the ad hoc committee, we intend to host not just public hearings here, which, as many of you know, can be frustrating because sometimes you want to talk to your commissioner and they cannot go back and forth. And so the stakeholder meetings that we intend to have will allow more of an informal engagement between the commission, between members of the public, so that feedback and conversation can be had about the various recommendations within the State Lands Commission report. And so we believe that the stakeholder process will be similar to that of the stakeholders meeting that we held in May, where we were able to just talk about the State Lands Commission report. And this process will be similar to that, so there will be formal meetings, but then also be stakeholder meetings to do a deeper dive into some of the recommendations in the report.
If I may suggest, as part of that process, I think for those folks who might be misinformed, I think it would be worthwhile to take 2 steps back and go through the history of how the State Lands Commission really got involved here. There was a gentleman that misspoke earlier, miscategorized why the State Lands is involved, so I think it would be, if you're going to do these stakeholder meetings, be very transparent and forthright, and even go back many Harbor Commission meetings. I believe I used the statement, "Be careful what you ask for," but I think it's important here to understand how the State Lands Commission got involved, and I can assure you it was not the Harbor Commission.
Okay, I'll open this up to the public for comments.
Adam Leverance. At the last council meeting, the term misinformation is becoming to be heavily used by the city. It's also in the Harbor Master's update a couple times tonight. I will say I dispute what Commissioner Williams just said. There are emails, I'm talking public records, emails from former chair Scott Cunningham to State Lands glorifying the mooring licenses, talking about how hard the NMA fought against it, fought against having their permits taken away. That's the earliest public record in this round of mismanagement of the tidelands that I've seen. If you can produce another public record that predates that, I would love to see that. Most of everything I say I can support with things in the public record, videos, audio recordings, emails. To form an ad hoc tonight, first problem, 4 of 7 commissioners are here. I think it wholly inappropriate for 4 of you to vote on this. I would like to have had someone from the city attorney's office here. I've been told that ad hocs can't have members of the public. I don't know what the conditions are on meeting with members of the public or all these stakeholder meetings. I think some determination on that should be made before only 4 of 7 commissioners vote to form this ad hoc. And if you remember, ad hocs, the city council formed an ad hoc to address the State Lands Commission report on February 10th. Blum and Stapleton to solely come up with recommendations for the full council. Someone decided, hey, it's an election year, we better not do this, let's kick it down to the Harbor Commission. You folks aren't elected. Ad hocs have contributed to the problem. They led to the July 5th, 2024 alternative recommendations for moorings. We still don't know where that came from. There needs to be public engagement. State Land said in their report, going forward, when the city takes any action involving its granted lands, it should explain how that action is consistent with its trust obligations. Having a limited number of commissioners sit around somewhere without public meetings, and then like July 5th, a holiday weekend, come up with some big, huge plan that's totally different from any previous plan, and the meeting's on the 9th to vote on it. This is not going to help. This is not going to help have faith in you folks. It's not going to help satisfy members of the public. It's not going to satisfy State Land or the coastal commissions. So at the very least, let's talk about this in front of the full commission and table this. Thank you.
My name is Craig Bluell, longtime resident of the area, mooring owner since 1972, and a prior City of Newport Beach employee. And if anybody can bring happiness in the annexation of Santa Ana Heights, where we had the equestrian people and the business people and the airport and everything else, and using an ad hoc committee properly, I think an ad hoc committee would be very beneficial, because there is a lot of stuff that's floating around that, you know, this is misconception, that is misconception. And what we can do is we can get those in the ad hoc committee, we can get those down on paper, and we can solve them and get the answers and bring the answers to public hearing or to public meeting prior to public hearing, because we like public hearings to not have any hostilities in them, because everybody should understand by the time we get to public hearing what's on the ground. And just to give you an idea of what I have seen transpire over Newport Beach, with regards to moorings. On March 6, 1979, I wrote a check for $242 for my last slip rent, and I bought a mooring. Okay, I was fortunate enough to have a personal loan from the Newport Beach City Employees Credit Union to do it. Some people are mortgaging their homes to do this. Now, why are they doing that? Well, if you take a CPI and apply it to that $242, from over that period of time, it's a slip rent of $1,158.12. Well, just recently back in, I don't want to bore you with the details, 4 years ago, I had been in a slip here, and the rent was $3,212 a month. That translates to $38,000. If we just round that to $40,000 for ease of math in my lame brain here, you multiply it by the 4 years that I've been gone from Newport Harbor, traveling to San Pedro, because the slip rent is only $800 a month, $850 a month. That's $160,000 in 4 years. We wonder why these people are terrified. So now, if I can sell that mooring for $1,000 a foot, that's easy math. It's a 45-foot mooring. In 10 months, they've recovered their slip rent. You wonder why the people of the mooring people here are terrified. So what we need to do is, I either had to sell the boat or move. And given how much time it takes to get from our house to the place where I can launch a little rowboat and get to the buoy and back, it's almost the same time as driving to San Pedro. and I can walk out on a slip with electricity and water. So there's a lot for us to consider, and I would nominate myself to help solve this problem. I really want to, but you gotta think, $160,000. When I became an employee of the city of Newport Beach, at that time in '72,
You'll need to wrap it up.
okay, how about 30 seconds? I was told that I was a public servant and I was to try to help the people of Newport Beach. I hope that philosophy is still going in our city and that we can help everybody solve this problem. This problem of state tidelands has not just been something since we've had the Harbor Commission. It goes back to prior to 1972 when Bob Wynn was city manager and the whole thing. So here I am to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, commissioners, staff. My name is Ann Stenton. I'm with the Newport Moran Association. Good afternoon. I can't believe it's almost fall of 2026. Summer went by way too fast. I'm already back at school. I did want to also respond to Mr. Williams' comments regarding who started this whole thing. I really don't think that helps. The city has made choices in how it's chosen to manage the harbor, and that goes way back before any of us. But the city did reach out in January of 2024. We do have email records of that. So there's that, but that's not what I want to talk about. I had a few questions still, and Chair Marston, I did really appreciate you kind of explaining kind of your thinking behind the ad hoc committee and all of that, and I do agree that there needs to be some collaboration, and I also really appreciated the previous speaker's comments about working together, because I think that's really the goal here. So I had a few questions, and I wanted to read part of my letter that I had submitted because some of it I'm still trying to understand. But from the Navigating Newport Harbor's Future website, it says the Harbor Commission reviews complex harbor-related matters, provides a venue for stakeholder input through public meetings, and is best qualified to analyze and make comprehensive policy and rate recommendations to City Council for its consideration. So we have that. And we know that the city has committed to a series of public meetings, as you mentioned, to gather that public input and, quote, engaging the community in an open, transparent process on rates, fees, and permit policies. So given that, I do support having meetings with the full commission because there is a lot of misconceptions out there, and I think it's important that we're all on the same page. And my concern is that if we have an ad hoc committee, how is that information getting steered? What's being shared? What isn't being shared? So I had a couple of additional questions. It doesn't sound like the city has dissolved its city council ad hoc committee. And so I'm kind of wondering if before we move forward with this ad hoc committee, if that's what's going to happen, could the city attorney please explain the respective roles of the proposed committee here versus the one at city council? If they are going to dissolve that, when will that happen? If it has happened, when did that happen? Also, you mentioned, Chair Marston, that it would be easier to do an ad hoc committee, and I agree it would be easier, absolutely. But is it best? Is it going to restore that faith and bring the community together to really solve this thing? I think having those meetings with the full commission, yes, more work for everybody involved. But I do think it would be more meaningful, and I think it would result in a better outcome that we could probably all work with. I do have a lot of concerns about ad hoc committees. I know it's something that's been a concern for a lot of people. So I just want to end with this. What other alternatives have been considered? If the goal is transparency, how is this going to improve that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Marston, members of the commission, my name is Jim Mosier. I would respectfully suggest that the ad hoc committee is the wrong approach to this problem, and I believe inconsistent with the plan that the city has announced. It bothers me every time I hear that an ad hoc committee can do something that the full commission is unable to do because of some kind of restrictions we have in state law, that there's no back and forth between the public and the commission at a commission meeting. that you can only speak once, that you can only speak for 3 minutes, so forth. That is a complete misreading of the state law, the Brown Act. The Brown Act was enacted to ensure that the public's business is done in public and to ensure that the public was not cut out of that process, which is actually what an ad hoc committee does. There is a passage in the Brown Act that says if I, a speaker, come to you with something that is not on the agenda, your response to that is very limited. About the only thing you can do is ask the staff to put that on a future agenda. But once a topic is on the agenda, there is absolutely nothing in the Brown Act that restricts what the format of the meeting should be. The requirement is that what you're going to be discussing is announced on the agenda so that the whole public knows what the topic is. Once you've announced it on the agenda, you can do exactly the same as an ad hoc committee, and the whole Harbor Commission can participate in that. And that, I think, is what you want to do. And then the other thing I heard, which was a little puzzling, was the understanding, which sounds reasonable, that you would only be making a recommendation to the city council and they could do whatever they want with it. I carefully read the compliance plan that the city manager sent to the State Lands Commission, and that is not what I read his plan to say. His plan said you, the Harbor Commission, would be making a recommendation that the State Lands Commission would review, and only after that would something be going to the city council. So the buck has been passed to you. You have a lot of work to do, and I think the whole commission can do that work in an informal setting at public meetings before you have a formal hearing on the item, and make your recommendation for review by the State Lands Commission, and then the city council can indeed do what they want with it. But both of those things I thought were misstatements, and I think your flexibility is much greater than you think it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other person from the public wish to speak on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission. Any comments?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for their comments, and I appreciate your thoughts and your opinions as it relates to the ad hoc committee. You know, this task that's been put in front of the Harbor Commission, from my perspective, is a very large task, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of work, and it's going to take a lot of interaction with you and other members of the public. And I believe that the ad hoc committee is the most efficient manner to provide us the opportunity to do the research and the fact finding that we need to do, to work with staff and to work with the stakeholders, and work towards being as efficient as we possibly can. And to your points that you made in your comments, Mr. Mosher, we don't have a lot of time, but it's going to take time. The dates that are out there are targets, and we need to move this forward and respond back to the State Lands Commission. And in my opinion, I would like to move forward this evening with the development and the creation of the ad hoc committee.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams?
Don't have any data to support it, but I'm just thinking in my head, if we don't have an ad hoc committee, that this would go on for years and years and years. And so when folks ask for transparency or speed of process without an ad hoc, like you're asking for this to go on forever in my mind. But I would absolutely be in support of an ad hoc, because this is these folks up here who are appointed by city council, who don't make any money, who don't have pensions, who are here for the best interests of the harbor, working within the state laws that are presented to us. And so for those folks to sit at that microphone and demonstrate or insinuate that we are not being transparent, or we are here to work against you, I can assure you that we are not. Thank you.
Commissioner Miller?
First and foremost, thank you, because all of your insight is great. It gives a great perspective each time I speak with you, either individually or as a group. You know, there's a lot of things to think about in this situation, and I think our end game is really just to get everyone's voice heard. And I don't, going into this, I would have felt that Title 17 experience that we had with ad hoc we had several meetings. Many of you were at those meetings, and I thought they were very productive, and I thought the result was in line with what was best for the community. You certainly raised a lot of questions that maybe Aaron has to answer, or city attorney or something like that, but my experience with the Title 17, and many of the people in this room are involved in that, was a very, very good one, and I think the outcome was good, and so I don't see why this would be any different. And so, although I think there's a lot more questions to be answered, I think I'm in line with you, Commissioner Williams and Scully and Marston's on, I think ad hoc might be the best path for us to get your voices heard. So maybe I guess that would be my comment.
Okay, thank you. I just would like to comment to Mr. Mosher's comment, as I do believe that we do not have the power to make the final recommendation to state lands. We can make recommendation to city council, and it will be city council that chooses to make the final decision with state lands. Is that correct, Deputy Harbor Master?
Correct, and I think one of the things we are going to do is to ask for the State Lands Commission to review the set of recommendations that ultimately will be sent to the City Council to make sure that they are in compliance with the state constitution, the public trust doctrine, and so that we don't send anything to the City Council that violates state law. So I think there will be a review because we want their approval.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but there's a lot of conversation that took place over the even distribution between the residential permit holders and the mooring people, and how is that distributed. At least some of the discussion that took place at the meeting at the Oasis, I got the impression that both of those are going to be rolled up into the methodology that goes into the application of this. I thought that was the benefit of an ad hoc, but I guess I would ask you, Matt, if there's anything outside of that, back to what Mr. Mosher brought up, that we should be concerned about. I don't see a downside for the ad hoc on that.
No, I think the benefit of the ad hoc committee is that it allows the members of the Harbor Commission to take a deep dive into the recommendations that the State Lands Commission, that were outlined in the State Lands Commission report, and then to engage the community, engage all the various stakeholders, and then return to this body through a series of public hearings with a set of recommendations on the various uses within the harbor. And so I think it'll be a very public process. I think it'll be a very inclusive process, as it should be. And so that is one of the benefits of formulating an ad hoc committee.
Does anybody else on the committee have concerns about the perception of 3 people being absent tonight and making this decision to have an ad hoc?
I think if we have 4 yes votes, then we would have 4 yes votes even if we had 7 commissioners here.
Okay.
So we need a motion first to establish the ad hoc committee, and then, or not, and then appoint members if it's approved. Correct?
Correct.
I'm just going to go off on record here. I 100% support ad hoc committee formation. I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable if we're appointing with 3 people absent tonight. I could see how folks sitting in the audience could twist this and state that we did this behind the entire Harbor Commission being present, or appointed people that didn't have the opportunity to be appointed. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I feel like apparently this is a sensitive topic, and maybe we should wait for more Harbor commissioners to be present.
I think I support you on this, Commissioner Williams. I do think it's a pretty contentious subject based on the people that spoke, and it would be better to have all 7 of us, I would imagine, so I guess I would make a motion that maybe we look at this at the next meeting when we have a larger quorum available, input from the city attorney on some of the comments that Mr. Mosier made. And so I guess the action I would say is, you know, can we outline those and give them to the city attorney?
No, that's quite all right, yes.
So I think we could still go ahead and determine if we want the ad hoc committee, and then not appoint members if the vote was yes.
Yes, you can do that, you can establish this.
And if the vote's no, then we could bring the whole thing up to the next meeting when there's more commissioners present.
I think we do it together. I mean, if we're gonna,
Yeah.
I don't think we do it in pieces, I think we do it together. I mean, it's, yeah. So, we got pushback from multiple here together.
I don't think the outcome is any different. I just don't want the perception that this was done without everybody here.
So we just need to work on agendizing it for our next meeting.
We need a motion for that?
I don't think so.
Okay, so,
I think you would have to, potentially, just in the interest of,
Yeah, I think we can just, maybe just motion that we'll bring this item back to the next Harbor Commission meeting
Okay.
in September.
all right,
So you need a motion for that.
Just, you guys can just say it on the record. I don't think we need to vote or anything.
okay, thank you. Okay, 6.2, ad hoc committee updates. Several ad hoc committees have been established to address short-term projects outside the Harbor Commission objectives. This is the time the ad hoc committees will provide an update on their process. And where are they?
Only ones.
Are we able to bring Paul
Yeah,
back
okay,
in?
so the only one still open, I think, is the Balboa Ferry, right? Yes. So Commissioner Scully, Spurcheck, and McElroy, so Scully, you're the only one here.
Yeah, nothing new to report. I have not heard back. I think he's right there.
Oh,
I just have not heard back in terms of if Joe Beek was able to get together with the Balboa Bay Club on the electrical, how they did their electrical near the water. But I'll try to get that for the next meeting. But other than that, there's nothing further to report.
okay. Okay, then item 6.3, Harbor Commission 2026 objectives. Each ad hoc committee stating their respective objectives.
Yeah, open up
I'm
for
sorry.
public comment, sorry.
Excuse me?
We just have to open up for.
Oh, yes. Any public comments on the ad hoc item? 6.2. Okay, so now we'll move on to 6.3. Harbor Commission 2026 objectives. Okay, so we'll start with functional area 1, which I'm the chair for, and as far as the Title 17, I have coordinated with the harbor master to identify some previous Title 17 items that could be part of an update, but that's as far as I've gotten on that. Commissioner Scully, do you have anything on 1.2?
No, the only things that relates to the Harbor Department operational readiness is the coverage. At nights, and especially in the summertime, and more coverage, expanded hours of coverage. And my only thoughts for that is maybe we should talk, obviously talk to Harbor Master Blank, and also do we need to work on that and study that and figure out, is there an opportunity to do that? As it relates to readiness, just from some of the public comments that we've heard in terms of nighttime issues and not having any availability on the water in the evening. When I say nighttime, it could be 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, that type of stuff. When we get more, I'll talk to Harbor Master Blank about it for future discussion, but that's the only item I have on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, functional area 2, harbor infrastructure, public access, and capital planning. Vice Chair Scully?
Yeah, I think as the chair of that, I would like to get our assigned commissioners to this, and I think we need to get a meeting together and kind of, review the scope and prioritize what's realistically achievable over the next 12 or 18 months as it relates to infrastructure, public access, and capital planning. I will get that going here over the next 30 days.
So is this gonna incorporate the annual capital improvement program that we usually review?
I would say yes.
Anything else on item 2? Okay. Functional area 3, Harbor Financial Sustainability, Commissioner Williams.
No update at this time.
If I could make one suggestion on this one, I'm on this with you, Mr. Williams. I'd like to invite a speaker from the City Finance Office or the appropriate person to present at an upcoming Harbor Commission meeting. I'd like to get a better understanding of how the Tideland funds work, the revenue sources, how the funds flow, the expenditures, how much from the general fund is being contributed, and how much the city is funding from the general fund into the two Tidelands funds. We've had a lot of discussion now on the Harbor Commission, and we really like to know more about it. So we can bring that up at, later this evening in terms of putting that on a future agenda. But I think that would be dovetail right into this objective.
I fully support Commissioner Scully on that, and I think it is back to the transparency thing. If we had the numbers, I mean, it's a P&L statement. It should be right there, and we should have access to it. So it should be easy.
Okay, functional area 4, Harbor Safety and Modernization.
Yeah, we have a couple different efforts going on here. Right now, the marquee one is implementation, either complementary or as a standalone process of some drone technology deployed for the Bay. We're still on the preliminary side of, what do those activities look like, and whether that's mapping or, spill coverage or safety or there's boat census, whatever that might be, pier measurements, pier docks. There's a lot of things that can really take place to this and make our committee more efficient. So we've had some initial conversations with both Harbor Master Blank and also Deputy Harbor Commissioner Matt Kosiline on some deployment, either complementary to the current PD and fire department, or maybe a standalone thing. So we've established some objectives that'll take place, and we'll have more to report on that next meeting.
Okay. Functional area 5.
Also, just as a, kind of a follow-up from our previous meeting when we went through the safety video and testing, we had a lot of public comment on that in terms of suggestions, both here from the Harbor Commission meeting as well as reaching out to a few of the rental concessionaires, and particularly in light of the public comment that was made earlier from the accident on the water with a rental vessel. We took back a lot what was brought from the meeting, and Harbor Master Blank has really gotten some momentum in terms of breaking out the training by the type of rental operation it is on the water, and the test be specific to the type of operation it is on the water. So breaking it out into 4 or 5 different categories, I think we're on the right track, and I think it's outstanding. And then also had a little bit of discussion with Deputy Harbor Master Kosiline on the water insurance and looking into these issues that we're starting to see on the water, and where is the financial responsibility going to be. So I think that's in process also.
Okay, so functional area 5, interagency coordination and policy alignment. Commissioner Spurchek is absent today. Commissioner Miller, do you have any update on that one?
I don't.
Okay. Are there any public comments on the objectives? Okay, so we'll move on to Harbor Master update for the July 2026 activities.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Paul Blank, your Harbor Master, and I'm going to start by turning it over to Chris Miller, who will give us the update on dredging. Take it away, Chris.
Thank you. Commissioners, this is my monthly update on the dredging in Newport Harbor. I'm going to switch screens here to a more updated map. So the map on the screen represents the current status of our dredging project. The areas that are either in green, blue, purple, or yellow are this is the dredge footprint, meaning this is what the Corps of Engineers is and will be dredging in Newport Harbor. So these are the areas that need attention to bring our harbor down to its authorized depth in those respective areas. It's hard for you to see the yellow area. It's a very small yellow area. It's in front of the Marina Park American Legion area. It's a small section. That represents where the dredger is now, approximately. And we've got probably a week and a half or so, maybe under 2 weeks to go to complete the channel that is leading along the peninsula down to Marina Park. And so that entire channel will be green, and green color represents that channel and area is complete. The next area that we're going to move to is the purple triangle right at the eastern tip of Lido Isle. And so we'll be dredging that. That's quite a bit of material there, and that'll take probably a couple weeks to get through that area. And then the last area will be the long, slender blue area, which is not labeled not started. That's just, I'll make that purple at the appropriate time. As of right now, we will be going from east to west, so we'll be starting down by the ferry and working our way up towards Bay Shores. From a timing perspective, the project will be done around the end of October, and we will be coordinating with the ferry, of course, to ensure that we can still maintain that operation while still dredging. And so far, throughout all the events and all the years we've been dredging the harbor, the ferry, we've always worked nicely with the ferry, and we've been able to work around each other really, really well. Regarding there are some moorings going back to the channel that's leading back to Marina Park. There's still a few moorings that have yet to be replaced along the edge of the H and J and F mooring fields. I'll just loosely say a dozen or so, plus or minus. And we're anticipating putting all those moorings back probably after Labor Day is my hunch. The dredger will be done with that channel, as I previously mentioned, within about 2 weeks. Then it's going to look like there's no activity and they're gone. Indeed, that's true. They'll be working in the purple area. But in the meantime, we have to survey what they dredged, make sure that they dredged 100%, and if they didn't, then they're going to go back and clean up. So it's this like couple-week process of cleanup, potential and usually always cleanup work that's required. And then the Corps and the contractor have to agree on quantities, and then eventually the Corps releases the area back to the city, and then we can put our moorings back. All I'm saying there is that during this interim period, when it doesn't look like we're doing any work in that area, we can't put the moorings back yet until everything's buttoned up with that channel. To date, as of today, we've taken 303 scows out of Newport Harbor. Each scow holds around 2,400 cubic yards, and an approximate total number of cubic yards so far taken out of Newport Harbor is 628,000. So that's quite significant. Ballpark is around 900,000, depending. So we're well on our way to finishing the project in late October. That represents most. I think that's the update that I can provide on the dredging. Is there any other questions or any questions?
I have a quick question for you, Chris. On the east end of the Lido anchorage, which now you're in process. Obviously, that was closed to anchorages for a while, but the Newport Yacht Club moorings, I believe, are mostly reset. Can people anchor still between what would be the old open anchorage and then Newport Harbor? Is that completely closed to open anchorage areas? And maybe that question should go to Harbor Master Blank, but I know you're working on that. Can people still anchor there?
My recommendation is no. I, of course, would consult with Mr. Blank, but we need to keep that area open, and the tug captain really wants to have as much room as possible to maneuver the tug and the heavy scow in and out. And then also within 2 weeks we'll be dredging in the purple area, and they'll need space to turn around, jog in position, move around, and it'll just be too congested, in my opinion, to consider having more boats there. I think that I would redirect the question or restate the question is to be, when we are done with the purple area, can we talk about putting the moorings back? And I think that's a very good question while we work on the blue main channel, which arguably would be out of the way of that mooring field. So let's readdress that. I haven't thought that far in advance yet. But
that's it for me.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
Sure. I have one other brief update that's not on the screen, and that is that we are currently doing our biannual eelgrass survey in the harbor, and we started that about 2 weeks ago, and we'll be working on that all fall. And we have divers in the water diving almost the entire perimeter of the harbor in what I call the near shore zone area. Happy to give an update to the Harbor Commission when that report is finished and the diving is done, the first part in spring, winter or spring of next year.
Thank you. Great.
Once again, good evening, Commissioners. Paul Blank, your Harbor Master. Before I leave the slide, I just want to point out Mr. Spano's question was on when the H&J mooring fields were to be dredged, and they are not part of the current project. There is no project scheduled to dredge those or any other mooring fields. The Newport Harbor Yacht Club mooring field is special because it's part of that federal channel, but the others are not. As always, this report and the robust staff report that's in your package is organized in the same manner as the Harbor Department's mission. That is to keep the harbor clean, safe, and well enjoyed. So those activities that we engaged in the month of July that kept the harbor clean include lots of attention being paid to the pump out equipment, especially at Balboa Yacht Basin, just keeping it active and robustly reliable. I'm pleased to report that at this moment all of the pump out stations are operational in the harbor and getting good use. I'll bring you an actual statistical use analysis on that sometime later in the fall. We have had great compliance with the angling restrictions at public docks and other places in the harbor where angling is restricted. The oyster restoration at Marina Park is going well. I can tell when I lift those out for their bi-weekly sun baths that the strings themselves are getting a great deal heavier, which means that the adolescent oysters and other things are growing within those shells. So we're pleased with that. I believe they're going to be collected at the end of September. There has been concern over discharge coming from upland through a culvert that goes under the Coast Highway discharges in the Balboa Bay Club Marina. That's being addressed with our colleagues in Upland Code Enforcement. It's been a great collaborative effort. We apologize that the discharge continues, and we are tracking down the culprits and staunching those. And a stop work order was issued at a local construction site, waterside construction site, to prevent debris from continuing into the harbor. They did not have best construction management processes in place at that construction site, so work was stopped. The three images you see there in the top of the screen, that's the pump out equipment and its status when I snapped the picture, which showed that the station at Balboa Yacht Basin was out of service, but it did not stay out of service for more than 36 hours, and it's operational at this time, as are all the other pump outs in the harbor. That stop work order there is in the middle of the screen, and in case you don't recognize them, in the lower right-hand corner, that image is of the oyster strings out on the whaler at Marina Park, getting their bi-weekly sun bath. Moving on to keeping the harbor safe, the unpermitted charter operator that was arrested in June was arrested again in July. This time for failing to appear on his warrant for non-appearance in June. And when he failed to appear to explain to the judge why he didn't appear in the civil trial in June, a subsequent criminal warrant was issued for his arrest that came with a $15,000 bail associated with it. So Newport Beach Police were able to track him down, take him into custody, and hopefully that $15,000 bond that he had to post to get out of jail will convince him that he should really appear in front of the judge and answer the judge's question related to his continued operation of unpermitted charters. The last bullet point on this slide was added subsequent to the production of the staff report, but I call your attention to a tragedy that took place last weekend in New York, where an unpermitted charter operator was operating a vessel that did not have Coast Guard certification, overloaded, but the vessel was rated for 10 passengers, it had 14 people aboard, and a mother and child perished as a result of the irresponsible operation of that boat by an unpermitted charter operator. A complete tragedy, and that is why we focus so hard on this, and we keep vigilance on those unpermitted charters. It is not only to keep the playing field level for those who do have the correct licensing, certifications, and play by the rules, but also to prevent tragedies like that. The voyage was terminated for 3 youths operating a 12-foot rib with a 70 horsepower motor on it. Those 3 youth were all 12 years of age, not wearing PFDs, and harassing other harbor users who were on paddleboarders. Ultimately, their voyage was terminated. A responsible parent was contacted and cited for allowing the vessel to be used by these kids who were not qualified and should not have been operating that vessel, and were doing so very irresponsibly. Various vessels were towed out of harm's way in certain circumstances. You see a couple of examples there. One in the West Leda Reach, and the other one was towed out of the anchorage when it had dragged and was bumping into other boats. So we generally rely on the commercial tow service providers for towing such large vessels when the need arises, but when the service is not available, we do have the capacity, and we do perform such things just to get those vessels to safe harbor. It's good to know that we have that capability. The harbor safety officers are all skilled mariners, and the boats are equipped with appropriate towing tackle, and they're all powerful enough to perform those tows up to 60 feet. We spent a lot of time in July doing nav light enforcement after the sun went down, and that is all through great effect and for the safety of the harbor. And we did participate in preparation for a potential disruptive experience on the Balboa Peninsula that did not materialize on Sunday. Moving on to the enjoyment of the harbor, we continue to make improvements at BYB with lots of positive feedback from the slip renters and garage renters there. It's noticeable improvement, and on a daily basis, we continue to have better and better interactions with tenants and receive feedback on the improvements at that One of the benefits of that is there's now integrated management of the Balboa Yacht Basin and the Marina Park marinas. So on very busy weekends when Marina Park is sold out, but we know there is capacity at BYB, we have been able to accommodate a couple of guests that were not able to get into Marina Park with slips at BYB, and they were very, very grateful. It takes a lot of coordination to make those reservations and direct the visiting vessels to the BYB, but it's better than not being able to come here at all. There was some youth supervision, and it was necessary to contact adult supervisors for some youths making use of the beach underneath the Leo Out Bridge, but ultimately everybody had a great time and were able to enjoy their sailing class and their sailing adventure to that location, some nutrition, etc., and then they were on their way with their PFDs in place. And a great story from BYB. I don't know why I'm so focused on BYB, it's just been top of mind. First aid was rendered to a slip renter at BYB who had gotten a fish hook stuck in his hand, and it required both the dockmaster, a harbor safety officer, and a bystander to render that first aid. It was a tremendous coordinated effort, and much to the appreciation of the poor fellow that had the fish hook in his hand. And then lastly, we assisted a vessel in the West Anchorage with the retrieval of his very large anchor. It was probably a 60-pound Bruce, because his wind was set back. So very happy mariner, visiting mariner that had been patrolling the West Anchorage. And there, a gratuitous picture of dolphins swimming in the harbor. In terms of odds and ends, I wanted to provide clarification on public comments that were made at this meeting last month. The Harbor Commission was admonished by a member of the public for spending a significant amount of money. I believe it's quoted in the minutes as hundreds of thousands of dollars on the failed mooring realignment project. Well, in fact, only $70,000 was actually spent, and though it was budgeted at $400,000, the $330,000 that was not spent on that project was contributed back and recognized as a reduction in the Harbor Department's budget. Of the $70,000 that was actually spent, $50,000 of it was spent on engineering, which is being reused as part of the improvement or modernization of the mooring specifications. So all of that engineering is going into that project. There was about $20,000 spent on the permit application preparations, and that we will never see back. I was privileged to receive from many different people praise for members of the Harbor Department team in certain circumstances, and I've shared that in the staff report. I have this one particular image, which was a text message sent to me by a Harbor constituent, and I just read it into the record. This is a picture of Code Enforcement Officer Jeffrey Goldfarb aboard HD1 out on a Thursday afternoon. The observant member of the public says, "This guy deserves a raise. You trained your guys well." He stopped the guy for speeding through the moorings, and then the guy stopped it. The guy he stopped lit him up about someone's generator use at night. Was calm the whole time and listened, even though the other guy was a total expletive deleted. A huge amount of time was spent responding to Public Records Act requests. In the month of July, I myself spent more than 45 hours responding to Public Record Act requests in the month of July, and as a result of that experience, I have connected with my colleagues in CDD, who respond to way more PRRs than we do, and the IT team to better provide records to the public without having to ask and us having to package them and publish them. And so there is an active project with our colleagues in IT to make records more self-service available to the public. Obviously, one of the big challenges with that is ensuring that no personally identifiable information is published to the public. And so there's a lot of the records that we handle, including mooring permits and live aboard mooring permits, that have personally identifiable information, perhaps not even related to the permittee on them. Example would be the emergency contact. So the emergency contact name, telephone number, address, all that kind of stuff has to be redacted before that information can be made available to the public. So it's not a small effort. It's not a small project, but ultimately it should save the harbor department some time. And then lastly, we spent a significant amount of time sorting out some congestion among shore moorings on the North Bay front. That project continues to go on, but the constituents there who share a very crowded beach seem to be getting along better at this moment than they were at the beginning of the month. Some additional odds and ends. Very interesting story. A vessel was impounded off the Fernando public dock for having overstayed its welcome. It was brought to Marina Park. It was secured at Marina Park, and it stayed there for 2 nights. It was a very attractive vessel, a lot of interest in it. And then on a Tuesday, I believe it was impounded on a Sunday, and then on Tuesday, I arrived at Marina Park and the vessel was gone. In inquiring about what had happened with the vessel and whether the registered owner had come to get it or not, nobody knew anything about it, and we were surprised to see that it was gone. Careful review of video footage from the night before indicated that the person we understand to be the registered owner had come in at 4 o'clock in the morning and cut the security, the cable, and essentially stolen his own vessel. But because it's in our custody, he's not allowed to do that. We tracked the vessel down, re-impounded it. It is now in a more secure location, and we've turned the matter over to our colleagues in the Newport Beach Police Department, who have indicated to us that the person we understand to be the registered owner is not somebody we really should be dealing with, and the police will handle it from here. They're using our evidence, including the video footage, the whole reason for the impound, the description, the call for service, the evidence that we have about the vessel having overstayed its welcome on the dock, etc., indicates that will be submitted to the district attorney, but all handled by our PD, not by us. We observed and curbed the use of one new, potentially unsafe way of enjoying the harbor. I have often said, people are staying up late at night looking for and devising new ways to enjoy the harbor, and indeed this one was new to us. This is, for lack of a better term, an underwater scooter which can pull a swimmer along at about 15 knots. And it is, exceeding the speed limit, even if you're swimming, is still exceeding the speed limit in the harbor, and we need to make sure that doesn't happen. But the prospect of swimmers transiting the harbor at speeds without an actual stroke being observed by nearby vessel operators is certainly concerning to us. So there is no restriction on these devices. You can purchase one on the internet today if you want, but you have to use it responsibly in the harbor, and we will make sure that people do. More news to come on that, and perhaps some additional restrictions or definitions will need to be devised so that we can adequately address the potential use of these by swimmers in the harbor. I was successful after having whined about it a lot at last meeting. I was successful at connecting a mooring permittee who has expressed interest in contributing to shoreboat service or finding a way to provide shoreboat service for mooring permittees in the harbor. I was able to successfully connect that permittee with the proposer who's working on that proposal right now. I introduced the two of them. I did not stick around to see what their collaboration looked like, and I have no evidence to support that they continue to collaborate, but at least the loop was closed, and I think whining here in this forum was actually effective. So sorry you had to hear it, but it was effective. And then I participated in a public appearance where I was asked, among many other things, about the surprising aspects of the harbor and what people are most surprised about in terms of rules and regulations. And my response in this public appearance I just thought was worthy of sharing with you. And sort of the two most surprising things people are advised of and surprised to be advised of is that 13-year-olds and younger all must wear PFDs whenever they're on a moving vessel. And that includes paddleboats or kayaks or any other moving vessel in the harbor. So 13-year-olds and younger all have to be wearing PFDs anytime the vessel is moving. And then the time limits associated with the public docks, you you cannot reset the clock simply by moving your vessel from one time zone or one cleat to another on the public dock. You actually have to leave the public dock for 24 hours, or you have to leave that public dock for 24 hours before the time limit will reset, and that people find that very surprising. Here's your monthly statistics and distribution of calls for service. The calls for service were 10% higher in July than usual, and we expect October will be similarly higher than average, just because it's a very busy month. There's a lot of traffic out there, but that's how it looked. Looked like we covered the harbor pretty darn well. Here are the amenity map usage statistics, and you see we continue to track very similar to previous years. Here is the permit activity that we've engaged in this year. We're on a brisk pace to issue more permits than ever. Here is that comparison to last year, and then here's the actual distribution of permitting activity. I want to make it clear, as I have done in the past, that we don't just issue permits for all the applications we see. In the case of harbor event permits, we've issued 50 year-to-date. We've denied 3, and 4 applications were canceled. In terms of marine activity permits, we've issued 32. We've denied 5 were canceled, and there are 11 currently pending. For mooring permit transfers, there have been 62 executed, and there are 48 currently in process or pending. For Rhine Wharf permits, we've issued all 16 applications. We've issued permits for all 16 of the applications we've received, and for the small harbor operation registration permits, we've issued the 5 for which we had applications. So we don't just blindly approve all the applications we see. I think it's important for you guys to know that. Here was the very busy Anchorage utilization calendar. I think it was Commissioner Miller was asking about the opportunity to have the East Anchorage back in service. It is unlikely that we will be able to temporarily restore the East Anchorage over the upcoming Labor Day holiday weekend, as we did for July 4th. It was a great benefit to have that Anchorage temporarily reinstalled and reinstated for the very, very, very busy, huge capacity of July 4th weekend. But given the dredging activities and the footprint that they're executing, it's unlikely we'll be able to do that for Labor Day. I apologize, but this dredging project happens once every 90 years, and it's just what we're gonna have to make do with. That's the report.
Thank you. Any comments from the?
I do. Harbor Master Mike, seems like a lot of mooring permit transfers. Is that a high number or is that's?
It's consistent with previous years. If we look at, I can probably call it up. Give me just a moment, I'll call up the pace for previous years. One moment, please. So, 62 to date in 2026, and so we have total transfers, family transfers. Family transfers are just a change in the title within, relatives. So, 80 last year, 176 in 2024, 87 in 2023. So there's some variety. It's not a steady 120, but we're on pace to do better than last year, but probably not as well as 2024.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Miller?
Just real quick, what was the public records request? It sounded like that was a tedious effort. What was the nature of what was being requested?
Okay, so it wasn't just one, there were several. The one that took the most time for me to respond to involved the history of and all relevant details associated with the mooring license program. So the requester wanted to know when the license program was conceived, when it was executed, when it was implemented, all of the aspects associated with its financial arrangements, including budget, license agreements, when the license agreement was formed, etc. And then all of the records associated with the maintenance of the 17 moorings in the program. that was, it was more than 200 documents.
Thank you.
Those are the city-owned moorings.
Right,
Right.
17 city-owned moorings that are all part of the mooring license program. But, yeah, and we had to go back to 2023, I think, and, you know, provide all the meeting minutes and staff reports, financial reports, et cetera, associated with the crafting of that mooring license program. And all of the legislation that created it. Ordinances, resolutions, all of it, from Harbor Commission all the way through City Council.
Okay. Does any member of the public wish to comment on the Harbor Master report?
My name is Tim Lewis. Mr. Blank, I'm curious about the Orange County Parks beach, and I believe they also own the docks that are there that are rented at the Harbor Department. And I'm curious about the parking time limits and stuff and how they're enforced on that dock. Does Orange County Parks have a special agreement with your department to manage those ordinances?
Please direct your comments to the commission. If they want a question answered, they will ask it.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Please direct your comments to the commissioners.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If they would like a question answered, they will ask it.
Okay, so my question was, does the city have a special arrangement with Orange County Parks to manage the ordinances and the time limits on the docks that Orange County Parks owns?
I do not know the answer.
There is no special arrangement. That is all managed by the county. And the city has no, the city is a tenant. The lifeguards make use of 3 docks there. But the city has nothing to do with the management or operation of that facility.
And so but they have that 24-hour parking limit for the dinghies on that dock too. So is that an ordinance is that a county ordinance other than a city ordinance?
It's all managed by the county. The city doesn't have to do with that dock or that facility.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay. Moving on to, I guess that was it, right? Yeah. Item 7, motion for reconsideration. A motion to reconsider any action taken by the Harbor Commission must be made at the same meeting or the subsequent meeting at which the action was taken and may only be made by one of the Harbor Commission members who voted with the prevailing side. Does any commissioner have any motion for reconsideration?
No.
Okay, item 8, commission announcements, non-discussion items.
I have a couple of quick ones. The city and Paul and all the staff does a great job. Battle of the Bay 4 is actually in the harbor this coming Wednesday. If you haven't seen it, Corona del Mar against Newport Harbor, boys and girls water polo in our bay. And it's quite an event. The TK Burger Truck will be there. It is a great job by Paul and his staff of organizing it. If you haven't seen it, it's really, really fun to go to. And then in September, if you haven't seen Bill Medley, first time in 9 years he's going to appear benefiting Oasis Center and also benefiting junior lifeguards. He's going to do 2 concerts at the Lido Theater first week in September. If you haven't seen him, he's pretty amazing to go see with his old partner, not Bobby Hatfield, but Bucky Owens is going to do with them. And then Paul has to manage incoming and outgoing boats. The second week, September, U.S. Championship Outrigger Canoe Race starts in the harbor, races to Catalina, and ends as they race back to Catalina. If you haven't seen that, it's quite a spectacle to start. You can see from all over our harbor, and so take advantage of that. So.
Okay, thank you. Number 9, matters which commissioners would like placed on a future agenda for discussion, action, or report.
Just the title is fine.
And for me, and I've had discussions already, cameras on the guest docks, the transit docks, I think is something, I don't know if it really has to be agenda sized, but I'd like to see it on a future, either completed or give these people access to that view.
Commissioner Williams? Nothing? Okay, item 10, date and time for next meeting, September 9th at 5 p.m. right here. And number 11, adjournment. We are adjourned for the August 2026 Harbor Commission meeting.
Thank you, Chairman.
Good job, Chairman.